Alrighty, so call the meeting to order at 4:33 p.m. There'll be no approval of the July 11th agenda. We're just going to go with what we've got. And there's no minutes to approve from May 2nd. Again, we don't have a quorum, so we're just going to go. We will get the minutes formally approved at our next meeting. As you can see from the agenda that we don't have anybody here today from the Long Island Railroad. Both Hector Garcia and Rob Free are out this week. So, and the people who we normally get are covering for them. So we'll go right down to the board and chairs report. Okay, the Long Island Railroad has been subject of numerous Newsday articles in recent weeks, which I'd like to address. First, most recently, there was a story regarding the effects of the congestion pricing pause on Long Island Railroad capital projects. As the Long Island Railroad was ahead of the curve regarding capital projects, the effect on us won't be as great as New York City Transit or Metro North, with the most pressing issue being the need for new rolling stock to replace the approximately 100 M3 cars that are still in service. It is hoped that this item will make it to the MTA's capital priority list, but that list is still being worked on by MTA upper management. And if we do get those cars onto the list, it will probably just be the 100 or whatever that's needed to replace the M3s that are in service. The original proposal was to get 164 cars, I believe, but the 100 cars could be considered state of good repair. The additional cars are for expansion, and that's going to be put on hold. There was also a story regarding passenger safety on the Long Island Railroad, and while statistics seem concerning at first, it should be noted that a majority of the assaults reported are against Long Island Railroad employees, usually conductors, or MTA police officers. The primary reason for this is the increased enforcement of the fare evasion policy. Grand larceny is another statistic that raised eyebrows, but a vast majority of those cases were unattended items being stolen. And with the cost of electronics today, laptops, etc., that raises the loss of many of these items into the grand larceny category. Long Island Railroad is instituting a change in policy regarding passengers being unable to pay their fare. Increased enforcement of fare evasion is being conducted throughout the MTA system, and a major problem with fare evasion on the Long Island Railroad has been the abuse of the ride now, pay later. Unfortunately, the Long Island Railroad collects only a very small portion of the mail invoices, which are issued on board, and many people are using fake names or addresses. Under the new policy, people who cannot produce a valid ID will be put off the train at the next stop. Also, if it is found that a passenger has multiple occasions of not paying their previous IOUs, they will be subject to arrest. All right, the Long Island Railroad is also increasing the amount of locations where they'll be using gating to check tickets prior to customers boarding the train. Previously, this has been limited to stations at UBS Arena and Citi Field, but now you'll occasionally see this at Penn Station as well. And you'll see that during rush hour, not just after a Ranger or Knick games. Okay, Amityville, Lindenhurst, and Copiague are now accessible on the Babylon branch with the Massapequa Park Station to have a working elevator in the near future. I had the pleasure of attending the ribbon cuttings at two of these stations, and approximately 90% of all Long Island Railroad stations are now accessible. May was the best post-COVID month for ridership on the Long Island Railroad with 6.5 million passengers, and the trend is continuing into June, with June 5th being the single best post-COVID day with 264,512 passengers. And please note that these stats from last month's joint committee meeting, so we might have exceeded that since then. 10 of the 11 branches exceeded the 94% on-time performance target. Montauk was last at 91%. The Long Island Railroad has launched a pilot program where you can report unclean restrooms at Long Island Railroad stations by scanning a QR code. I asked that if this pilot proves successful, that it be expanded to restrooms on board our trains. I was told that this will definitely be given consideration. And lastly, the Long Island Railroad has reinstated the summer Saturday discount program, in which a monthly ticket holder can travel anywhere on the Long Island Railroad, wherever the railroad goes, and bring 2 additional friends or family for just $1 each. This program runs July 6th through August 31st. And that's my report for this month. If anybody has any questions.
I'll just add, Jerry, that today, that Newsday had an editorial in support of the gating program and in support of not allowing the IOU program for people without IDs. So as ways to reduce fare evasion and also to reduce assaults on conductors and the like.
Alrighty. I think Adam has a question.
Yes, not from this report, but in your last report in May, you said something about that they're working on Jamaica improving the maybe not connections, but the timing to make things better there. Has there been any updated discussions on that since the last meeting?
Not that I'm aware of, unless Lisa heard something, but no, they just, they're clinging to the on-time performance and trying to keep things as tight as possible. But as far as any kind of improvements or anything that they've been able to do to it, I haven't heard anything yet.
All right, thank you.
Anna, we do have some good news for you, Jack.
On the specific issue you had flagged, trains
At Woodside.
Yeah.
Timing issue.
Yes.
They did resolve that. They said they adjusted the schedule.
Yeah, they agreed with you, and they you should have seen a slight schedule adjustment so that it addressed the.
Yeah, they definitely improved the situation westbound. It would be nice if they did the same thing eastbound, but no, that was definitely very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah,
And I think for a matter of safety.
yeah, that was you. So thank you.
Okay, Maddie has his hand up.
Thank you, Jerry. Great report as always. I hope everyone's having a great July. It's so great to see my home branch of Babylon of having Copenhagen, Lindenhurst now ADA accessible. I know, Jerry, you were there. Chairman Lieber was there. Rob Free was there, and various ADA task force members were there. I mean, we're making progress. I'm excited to see what Massapequa Park comes. That's all I have to say.
All righty. Thank you, sir. Christopher, you got a question?
Yes, guys. I'm sorry, but I have to keep my just to let you know, I did attend just forgive me because I'm on a bus. Just let everyone know that I did attend the ADA, but we are working on some just to let you guys know. Q told me to let you guys know that we're working on the somebody's making noise in the background, so I'm having a little trouble hearing myself. Just to let everyone know that Q is going to be working on something in the next few months with the Long Island Care Division. More details will be coming up soon. We are going to have to work on outreaching a little more better with signages, not just digital, but advertising more outside the community to let them know when there's Long Island Cares or the non-button issue things. That's something that Q wanted me to bring up. If you guys heard me.
And I wanted to thank you for coming out to the last ribbon cutting that went out in Lindenhurst. It's good to see your support.
You're welcome, Jerry. And just so everyone know, I did make sure Jerry was part of that other one because he was trying to hide, which, Jerry, you're part of it. And, this is everything we build or advocate for. We all advocate together to make sure our railroads are fully accessible. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate it. If there are no other questions, we'll go down to the executive director's report.
Yep. Thank you. So for the good news, there is also some bad news, and that came, of course, with the budget and the budget delay, or the budget pause, cuts, reprioritization. Thank you. The devastating cuts that are going to happen to the MTA's capital program because of the pause that was put in place by the governor on June 5th. So there is insufficient funds to finish the capital program for this year. So until and unless there is a real strategy for filling the $16.5 billion hole that also addresses the air quality and traffic congestion issues, projects like Hollis and Forest Hills, accessibility at 23 subway stations, and a lot of other projects like the rolling stock and other things like signal improvements, track improvements, and other good repair work throughout the system is just gonna take a back seat to politics. So we're keeping our eye on how to best move things forward, and keeping keeping the focus on the importance of congestion pricing in putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. You'll see that we're working closely with the coalition of advocates and elected officials to that end. There was a press conference yesterday at Nostrum Avenue about A and C elevators, but I think that that's going to ramp up a lot, and it could probably expand and extend regionally as the shoes drop. There's not one shoe, there's not two shoes, there's shoes everywhere that are going to drop. We'll know more at the July board meeting when the July plan comes out, what the effects are on the operating budget also, because if the MTA has to accelerate its borrowing, and that's going to come out of the operating fund, and that's really where we have service. That's what service comes out of. It's what frequency and reliability and all of the things that, all of the improvements that we have seen over the last few years have come from operating funding. So, even as we look to the next capital and the need for sustainable, continual, reliable funding sources, bondable funding sources for the next capital programs, we're still looking back at how to fill the hole in the current capital plan while still meeting the goals of congestion pricing. So stay tuned for that. Did I miss anything? No? Yeah.
And along that line, something came out just today regarding the Long Island Railroad. They're putting on hold the purchase of the land that they were going to use for a new rail yard out in Port Jefferson. So that's, again, if you don't have the money, you can't spend it. So hopefully that land will still be available at such time that the Long Island Railroad has the funds to purchase it.
Yeah, and that's something that is going to hit a lot of people really hard, because that is really that is a linchpin in the electrification of Port Jeff, if that's going to move forward. So I know a lot of people have suggested a lot of different funding sources and a lot of different funding options for how to raise $1 billion, but they're not all viable, and we've been looking at them all. And stay tuned for more information. Not at this, yeah, really? Not at this meeting. Christopher, yes, sir.
Just to add in, to back you up, Lisa, regarding Forest Hill, Q did speak to some of the communities over there the other day, and mentioning that since that station doesn't need an elevator, but he's trying to work with them to refix the ramp. So there's a possibility there might be something, a hope to come in for Forest Hill. But Harless, as you know, is the only thing they're getting with the station is just a replacement parts of the station, but not fully accessible. That's something that the community over there at Harless area, without the other person, which I'm not saying names, is still advocating to get officials to get funding. So there is still hope for those two stations. So Long Island Railroad is not like accessibility part is not losing a battle, but still getting something done. It's just that we just need to get officials in those areas to get their attention and really pay attention to these support letters that everyone has been doing for the last week or so, or actually a month ago now. Thank you.
The other piece of that puzzle
is, the thing we need to keep in mind is that any relief we see along those lines is probably a minimum of 6 months away. To get any additional funding, you need the legislature. Legislature's not going back in the session till January. There is a long shot that maybe the governor will release the pause on congestion pricing, but I think for political purposes, she won't do that until after the elections, if she does that at all. So again, anything we're talking about now, you're not going to see any immediate changes. It's going to take months at the earliest. I hate to say it.
Yep, and any money that, you know, can be released, any money that's now available has to go to state of good repair. I mean, that's a priority. And Christopher, I don't know if you, I wouldn't say that Forest Hills doesn't need an elevator. That's a big fight in the community. I wouldn't take a position on that at this point, and without being much better informed. So anyhow.
Agree with you, Lisa, 100%.
Okay, but do you guys want to do the social media update?
Yeah, so we've been monitoring social media and our email inboxes for the last few months, and there have been a lot of complaints about air conditioning on train cars, specifically on the older M3s, but just a lot of reports of some air conditioning issues. We've also gotten some emails about crowding across a lot of different lines, but particularly on PM peak Ronkonkoma and Long Beach trains. And then lastly, there have been, especially on the longer day weekends that we've had, some weekend Montauk line trains have been delayed, leading to a lot of overcrowding, especially during the peak times when people are going to and from the beach. And there have been some instances of passengers being asked to ride in school buses to reduce crowding on some very busy times.
Okay, and again, in response to that, the governor's pause on congestion pricing, not to beat a dead horse, also affects that. The diesel fleet, which is more and more starting to have some problems, equipment problems and delays. Useful lifespan for most of the equipment is about 30 years. The diesel fleet's at 25 now. So we're going to see more and more of that. If congestion pricing went through, there's a possibility that they could place an order for replacement diesels. They could place an order for additional cars. Right now, they play railroad car Jenga. They'll steal cars from the Port Jefferson branch sometimes to put them on for Montauk trains on a Friday. And I know they do that even on the regular Montauk branch trains. We used to have an expression 5-car Fridays in Patchogue, because our normal 8-car train would be a 5-car train on a Friday because they had to steal 3 cars to make up the cannonball. So again, it's a problem. Also, I just wanted to point out where people question, well, how can a pause in congestion pricing, affect the operating fund? Well, you make a good point about any kind of like bonds, accelerated borrowing, that goes against operating funds. But as Kara said, we've had complaints about the air conditioning on the M3s. So you got cars that should be replaced, and we're going to have to pump money into fixing those air conditioners, keeping those things running. It's like having a car with 150,000 miles on it. You're gonna have to go for a transmission. You're gonna have to go for maybe an engine. Who knows? The problems become bigger the longer these things are in service, and it's the same thing with a railroad car. So, and again, the money spent to replace air conditioning or fix air conditioning, that all comes out of the operating budget. That's not out of capital. So one definitely does affect the other. Okay. What else you got?
Larry has his hand.
Oh, all right. Larry, you're up.
Unmuting. There we go. Just a point of information, the governor, as of today, is considering congestion pricing at a lower pricing rate just to get going and to generate income. That was from today.
She's actually said that before, but she can't just arbitrarily do that because it's legislatively required to hit a certain number, and she needs to get her partners in the legislature to agree to it. So we know that she's been meeting with Andrew Stewart Cousins, who put her in touch with Liz Kruger as the lead there, and Carl Hasty, but there hasn't been a plan for how to make up the revenue. Well, why don't we lower the revenue? You can't just say, I'm gonna lower the rate, because it has to be within the parameters of what was looked at in the environmental assessment and the finding of no significant impact. Otherwise, it needs to go back to the drawing board.
Right. I'm just telling you what she said today.
Yeah, she's
Um,
been saying that. She can say it all she wants. It's like using her imagination isn't gonna find $1 billion. Sorry, but I'm sure that people are telling her that.
What I suspect is probably going to happen, again, this is just my opinion. I have a feeling that she's talking about alternate sources, but yet we've already spent the money for the gantries and all the technology. My suspicion is that come January or February, there'll be a plan, there'll be an alternate source, which will generate a couple $100 million or something like that. And then they'll be able to lower the cost and work it through the legislature, however they need to do it, lower the cost of the congestion pricing fee. And then MTA will still net their $1 billion a year. However, that's still pushing us to 6 months out. And of course, there are increased costs that go along with that. But that's my suspicion. I could be wrong, but that's my read on the situation.
So the concern is that there may not be a program after January, depending on who is in the White House.
Yeah.
That's why there is a real time crunch, and that any new funding source needs to go to fund the next capital program. And that this hole is not going to just get filled by fiat. So that, reducing the fee is potentially and starting it as at a lower amount is one, great, that's a potential alternative, but you can't just decide to do that. You'd have to do that in consultation with federal highways. It doesn't then meet the goals of the program to reduce the amount of traffic and improve the air quality, the PM2. So then there might need to be a review of the environmental assessment. And then when you open that, then you're re-inviting the lawsuits and total review of the EA. So that's been a lot of the cautious conversation that's been happening.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a mess. There's no two ways about it. It is going to be a total mess. Chris, did you have something to add?
Yes, I'd like to add for the record that we also need to add, this will also affect accessibility, elevator projects and any other accessibility things that we need to add. So it does affect the accessibility, because it was mentioned today at the Disability Pride event by Joanne Simon, because she's really upset about it too. And there are a lot of them are trying to push for a special session on this, that I'm all set. And Joanne and I said, I'll believe it when we see it, because she understands a lot of people are very upset, because out of all the accessibility stations on the subway end, it's going to really cause a lot of problems, that things were supposed to get done on schedule. Now we're delayed again. COVID, now congestion pricing. And I have to mute right now because I have an ambulance coming in, but it does affect accessibility very strongly. I know, Lisa, you mentioned it a lot.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Maddie, you have something?
Yeah, I do want to say that, it's a little disappointing with congestion pricing being suspended, and having, accessibility projects, halted. Though I do agree with Chris said, and also what Assemblywoman Simon said about, a lot of people are upset because, if congestion pricing, the longer we wait, the more expensive it'll be, and the longer it'll take. That's all.
All right. Thank you. Lisa, you got anything else, or staff have anything else?
Nope. No, we're just continuing to push it forward. We've got this big check that we're dragging around. Get the check.
What about the IOU? I thought you had a big giant IOU made up. We could give that to Larry.
Cool.
Yeah.
Federal funding. This got on the
Let me tell you
cover.
something. It's a good thing they wrote void on it. Otherwise, you'd be able to walk it into the bank.
Yeah.
Oh, Adam was his hands.
No idea how many people have asked us if they could just borrow that for a day. Yeah. Adam, you've got your hand raised.
Alrighty, so we'll move down to old business.
My hand. My question was for Kara's report, Miss Girl's report. When she said about the complaints that being received recently, because she makes that report each month, are those complaints to PCAC on social media or complaints to MTA on social media?
So a lot of the social media ones we
I'm sorry, I
monitor.
can't hear.
Hear me now?
Yes.
So a lot of the social media complaints that we look at are
Mhm.
from monitoring the replies to the Long Island Railroad, because we like to see just what people are saying to the railroad and how they're responding. And so some of those are from monitoring what people have tagged or tweeted to the Long Island Railroad. And then since our last meeting for LIRRCC was in May, that's across some trends that we've noticed over the last 2 months since the last meeting.
I understand. I was just asking what if they were PCAC or if it was the MTA as a whole. I've noticed whether it be Twitter, whether it be Facebook, the reply rate, especially with LARR, is much lower than it has been before. I don't know if you're aware of that, or if anyone says that, or if you know any cause of that in terms of the public replies. Most things aren't replied to.
No, we weren't aware of that. I mean, we know that there's some replies go a little longer than necessary or than should be, but for the most part, we are under the understanding that most of the complaints are replied to in one way or the other. People are not always happy with the answers they get on the replies.
I'm talking more about the informal stuff on Twitter or Facebook. People ask a question or say the train is hot or unsafe. It used to be that somebody would tweet back or send a message back, and those have become much more sparse.
Okay, that's good to know. We'll keep an eye out for that.
I usually, when I have an issue, when I ride, I send it through WhatsApp.
Mm-hmm.
And now you can use WhatsApp on the Long Island Railroad and also on Metro North, in addition to subways and buses. And
Is that the same crew as the train time, or is that a different place?
So WhatsApp is on the different.
Yeah, I have the app, but is it does the messages go to the same department as the we get answered by the same people like in train time?
I have no idea.
It's a different team. It's through I think it's the same team as 511 for the MTA.
The same team as 511.
It goes to the MTA 511 division.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
This is Chris. It goes for the 511 division. When you put in your MTA complaint or compliment, that's where it goes. That's what they mentioned at the last board meeting, committee meeting.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Karen, what's that? 646-628-6743. That's the number that you can use. It's live customer support for MTA buses, subways, Metro North, and Long Island Railroad.
Oh, through WhatsApp. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a link in the chat as well.
Okay, I can't see everybody. Do we have any other questions or?
I have new business.
No, we got if we're done with questions, then we'll go to old business. The old business is, as some of you know, the August meeting, we usually do a field trip somewhere with the Long Island Railroad. We haven't determined where that would be or if it would be on the normal meeting date. We'll keep you posted. We are going to try to, wherever we go or whatever we do, we're going to try and get use of a conference room or a space that we can have a quick meeting such as the one we're having today, just to go over a few things and kind of combine that with our field trip. But again, it all depends on where we're going and what facilities might be available to us. That's all I have. Anybody have any other old business before we go down to new business? Okay, Chris, you said you had something for new business?
Yeah, just want to, on new business first, I just want to wish everyone happy Disability Pride Month. To everyone, as you see in the back of my screen, it says 8834 and Disability Pride Month. Just to remind you that MTA Accessibility is still doing some events. I know Cara was, I know a lot of us did attend yesterday. There are still more events coming up. I did email that to you, Cara, as well as Lisa and the team of PCAC. We know that there's an event going on this Sunday. We're just reminding everyone to keep posted on the MTA accessibility events, any events comes up. And everyone, happy ADA 34.
All right, thank you, Chris. Maddie, you have something?
Yep, same thing with that. I'm happy Disability Pride Month, folks. I spoke to the diversity committee last week about how ADA was made. But anyway, I just want to wish everyone a happy Disability Pride Month and ADA 34, stuff like that. And for the PCC staff, I'll see you all next week. And then for the Long Island Railroad, I'll see you all in September. Thank you very much, Jerry.
All right, thank you, sir. Larry, got any old business? Oh, you're muted.
Yep. I know. Do we want to talk about what I sent you today?
Actually, I had that listed on the new business, but if there's no other old business, we'll go to new business. Yeah, Larry sent me a very interesting email this morning with some pictures of a rather large electronic bike. It looked almost like a motorcycle.
It was the size of a motorcycle. It retails for over $3,000 because I looked it up. And this guy rolled it onto the train. He blocked halfway blocked one of the rear doors from access, and it just kind of surprised the hell out of me that something that big was allowed on the train. And we don't know if there's a limit. I know Jerry reached out to Hector to see if there is a limit.
There is a limit. But there is a limit. And Hector's on vacation. This should not have been allowed on. But we also know that the conductors have, they don't want to be involved in a confrontation that could be violent. So they have to make judgment calls. And this, I don't know the size. It's on their page. It's on their
Put the policy in the chat.
Yeah, there is a policy, but that's huge.
Yeah, I mean that has. If that didn't exceed the limits in the policy, then I think we need to change the policy because that is just that thing was humongous and
get on.
It does create.
I can't share it because it's on my phone, but I can send it to my computer. And if you want, if everybody wants to see what it looks like, I can try to put it up.
I have a picture.
I saw it.
Where did they get on?
Penn. No, I'm sorry. Grand Central. Sorry.
Grand Central.
That's nuts.
Well, you see, now I'll talk to Vinny at the next board meeting. Pull him aside. That's something, if the conductor doesn't want to get to a confrontation, that's just a phone call to MTA police, and they should meet that guy at Jamaica when the train pulls into Jamaica.
But it's even more of an interesting story. Think about it. He had a drive, ride, wheel, whatever that thing, all the way down to track level.
Yeah,
that's an accomplishment.
I mean, it really was an impressive accomplishment that he made it all the way down to track 201 to catch the train.
Larry, if you could please give details of when that happened, because that's really a situation for the MTA police. And they're everywhere. And also Grand Central operations. They have a group that is in charge of running Grand Central Terminal at Grand Central Madison. They get paid to do that. And they should not be letting, they should, if they see something like that, they should be telling the MTA police, flagging it. That's going to break an elevator. That's going to break escalators. And there had to be a ton of people seeing that. The Mets are playing during the day today. So somebody, I'm sure, saw that going during the day. So awesome.
Well, you know what? I might, I'm thinking maybe because I sent the email to both Rob and Hector, and they're both out until early next week. So I won't get a response on that. But I was also thinking of maybe sending that to the chief of the MTA police. Because again, like you said, they had to get that down to the track platform. The way Grand Central's laid out, to get to those escalators on like 46th, 47th Street, there's cops stationed at the top of each of those escalators.
Yep.
How did no one question this guy? Dude, where are you going with that?
Yep.
I guess it's probably a freight elevator or something you might have taken.
I don't know. Lisa, I just sent you the 3 pictures. So if you check your email.
I have the pictures. It's not the pictures. It's what time it was, what track it was, what train it was.
Far Rockaway 201, I think it's like the 202 train or something like that, or 230 train. Track 201, it was, I believe, Far Rockaway, because they changed it to Jamaica, and so did he, to Babylon. I just sent you 3 pictures to your email.
I have the pictures, but that doesn't, I need to know more information so we know when.
Track 20, it was track 201 at Grand Central. It was something like, it was a Far Rockaway train that I changed to Jamaica to the Babylon train. And it was
With you.
about 2:30. When did I talk to you, Jerry? That like a half an hour before I texted you.
Okay. That's fine, I can find it.
Yeah, about 2 o'clock.
Yep, I think that's when you sent the. Yeah, we started the conversation like at 203, 202.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. So that was that was when he got on from Jamaica. So that's when we transferred. So you figure it was about a 1:30 train at Grand Central to Far Rockaway. I don't know if you see the pictures, Lisa. It's a full size bike.
I have the pictures. I saw the pictures. I can't just tell people. Look at
Yeah,
this.
no, I get it. I got it.
Thank you.
Alrighty, Chris, did you have something?
Yeah, I just want to add something that Larry has a good point about something also. You know, this is not the first time I have to hear about bicycles blocking the accessibility area when it's during rush hour, and they still don't understand bicycles are not allowed. And I do see MTA police, but I think during now until September, well, I'm sorry, October, because you guys don't meet in September, that's PCAC. But I think we need to do is something to bring up, and this is a combined effort with even the ADA task force I have mentioned already, that we do need to work on a little more signages and some updates more, because we do tell them to everyone to put it on the app as one, but 2, we need to work on the, I'm trying to get my train of thought in my brain, to get the, I'm sorry, I'm blanking because my head is burned out today. To really get people to know if you see something like that, put it in, or, you know, putting additional signages. Digital screens might work, but half the time we need to see regular old-fashioned signages out half the time.
It's not going to care about a sign. Not Jerry. Sorry, did you leave Grand Central at 1:23 or at 2:22?
1:23 because I hit the Jamaica at 2 o'clock.
Okay, you're right, Adam, again, thank
Because
you.
I saw him get off my train I saw him get off of the train at Jamaica that I was on, and I saw him get on the Babylon train on track 7 at like 1:55 or something like that.
Hey, Lisa, did you say you had a copy of the policy handy?
It's on the website.
It's in the chat.
Okay.
Put it in the chat here. It's the third message in the chat.
Okay, now the point I wanted to make, if I'm not mistaken, when I remember the policy being discussed, no charging was part of that policy. Am I correct?
That's correct, yes.
Larry, that guy was charging his.
Oh, I thought at first he was charging. He had it plugged into his own power thing. He played a cord but there's no place to plug in on those cars. So he couldn't have been charging. So he might have been charging on a portable power pack or something. Or maybe he was powering his cell phone from the battery. There was a cord that was coming from it. Did not plug in. I was correct on that.
Adam?
All right. Adam, you got something?
Yes. I just wanted to, I know in the May meeting it came up, if you guys can advocate again, regarding issues with announcements and platform signs. There's been no, I mean, the Woodside issue that's, as Lisa mentioned, was taken care of. But just more generally, lack of announcements. It says the train is 1 minute away, it comes 10 minutes later. I mean, it's a more general issue, and sporadic issue. I don't know if anything can be done about that. I know, as Lisa knows, the the specific issue that was fixed at Woodside, which is helpful. And also just general communications. I mean, if there's an issue on the train, you mentioned that massive bike. Many times I go on train time. It could be 8 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and nobody even answers. Sometimes someone will answer an hour away later with the contact us link, which is not very helpful if you're reporting a safety condition. There was one time I went on because it was very slippery at Metzwiller's Point.
I tried the WhatsApp. They're very responsive. I haven't actually tried it on the railroad, but I try it on transit. They're good.
It's like instant.
Yeah. And I was on a train that showed up as 138 minutes early one day. Not 138 minutes early. Under any circumstances, but you know that rated a screenshot.
Yeah, just the train time, they very rarely reply and they're very nasty. I don't know if Lisa has noticed some of the complaints, people screenshotting their train time communications the last couple of weeks.
We'll look into that too.
If you want me to email some of the ones I've seen online, I guess somebody can put an email in the chat where I should send them. Just from the public, although I've experienced personally too.
What do you
At that train time map.
Sean, where do you see them? On what site?
I see mostly on Twitter people posting things that were said and how the workers at the train time real time chat are answering and behaving toward the customers.
We'll take a look. So, but thank you for.
Okay, yeah. So if you need me to send any information, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Really appreciate it. Yeah, and just so you'll know, I had a conversation regarding communications just prior to the last board meeting. I was coming in and our train apparently hit somebody. And they were not telling us a hell of a lot. And it would have been nice to know. And then, then of course they back us into a station. Do we get out? Do we get on the next train? Is this train going to proceed? Fortunately, the train crew on the electric that we transferred to had the proper information and gave it to us, but it would have been nice if the guys in the diesel train knew what the hell was, and they were the guys who supposedly hit this person. So, and then of course, when you're talking about a pedestrian strike, if it's a fatality, you could be sitting there for 2 hours, while they wait for the medical examiner. Fortunately, that wasn't the case. This person was able to be taken to the hospital, but it just would have been nice if we could have gotten information in real time so that we could have made some more decisions. Fortunately, I usually come in early. I still make my appointment on time, but
no,
and they were
definitely
talk to the train crews, talk to dispatch, and find out exactly what the problem was.
So I mean that's a horrible story. But just on the more regular, there was a pledge, maybe it was before COVID, about stopping in stations when there's a delay. I guess I'm talking more about the minor 5, 10, 15, 20-minute stuff in the morning. But trains are stopping between stations instead of at stations, which was pledged not to happen, but it's really gotten worse the last couple of months, especially between Woodside and Penn and Grand Central, and also between Great Neck and Manhasset.
Okay, it's good to know. Larry, what you got?
On a positive note,
Okay, there we go.
nice to have a positive note every once in a while. There has been, and I don't know if they're still called ambassadors. I was at Penn and I was also at Grand Central today. I see a lot of people in vests from the railroad helping people, especially at Grand Central. They're all over the place, directing people, helping people. And I'm also seeing it a lot in Penn, that I've seen a lot of people in vests, red vests, aiding commuters and things like that, or pointing them in the right direction. I don't know, are they still called ambassadors? They were at one point. I don't know what they are now.
Long Island Cares.
Long Island Care?
It's not everybody's Long Island Care.
Yeah, that's Long Island Cares is an outside agency. These are employees of the railroad wearing red vests, helping people. But I've seen a lot of them out there, and the announcements in Grand Central today were wonderful. A little much. I don't need to hear the same thing over and over as I'm going down that Jagunda escalator, but the announcements are there.
You're gonna hear that all the time.
I know.
It'd be nice if the people in the vests and stop the guy with the bike.
Look, I go through Grand Central a lot, but I have my own like route where I go. Where a lot of these other escalators and elevators and entrances up on the 40s are, I honestly don't know where they are. Sometimes I accidentally go out on one, but I can never find it to come back in. But that's just me. So I have no idea how the guy even got in or where. Couldn't tell you.
It's good to know. Something we'll definitely check out with the MPA police and see what they say. Alrighty, so that's it for new business, unless somebody else has something else. Going once, going twice.
I will just throw out one thing, Chris. If you're showing up on Sunday to the event in Central Park, I will be there on Sunday. We're broadcasting
Yes,
it
I
live.
will be there. I'll be with the MTA accessibility team wearing my Omni new shirt.
I will be in shorts, sweating my ass off, running a TV truck.
Not a problem, sir.
Good one, Larry.
Does that mean the gov's going to be there?
Oh no, she's not coming to. As far as I know,
Oh, okay.
It's a live broadcast for Disabilities United.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
in charge of it.
It would be show up at an event at a time when she's eliminating 25 elevators.
Yeah, and right now she's in a damage control because of what her lieutenant governor said about Joe Biden yesterday. So she's in a little bit of a damage control mode for that.
Oh yeah. Always something.
But today's event was it was funny. Today's event was all about e-bikes and fires. So they had the fire commissioner, and that's what the main event was for today. It was all about e-bikes and the dangers of e-bikes. And she signed legislature today that all e-bikes now have to be registered with the state. They have to supply manuals when people buy bikes. It all has to be registered. So now they'll start to know who's got bikes, and I don't know if they're gonna plate them. I don't know how they're gonna. I have no idea how they're gonna enforce this.
Point of sale, yeah.
If they're sold here.
That'll be interesting. Okay, going once, going twice. Larry, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion, and I apologize for being late. I totally screwed the time up.
No worries. All right, everybody. Thanks for showing up. Greatly appreciated, and see you next month.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you.
great
Have a
summer.
great
See you
night,
next week,
everyone.
PCAC crew.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank
Happy
you.
Disability Prime Month.
Woohoo!
Okay, goodbye, everyone.
And it was just us left.
Yes.
Kara's waiting to hit the off key. I could
Yeah.
see her finger.
I want to make sure everyone's done talking. Okay,
Kara's
bye.
waiting to hit it. End call.
See you